next tonight, new state legislation that would create a Down syndrome awareness program. It will provide up-to-date and evidence-based information for healthcare providers who order tests for pregnant women or infants to screen for Down syndrome. Joining me now, Emily Mondschein. She's the executive director of GiGi's Playhouse, a Down syndrome achievement center here in Buffalo. Now, Emily, we were talking earlier. It's all about making sure women have all the information they can to make the best choices for them. Talk to me a little bit more about this bill and describe the process of getting it through Assembly and getting it through the Senate and then ultimately to the governor.
Yeah, so we're really excited. Assembly member Karen McMahon sponsored this bill, and then Senator Minority Leader Robert Ort also sponsored the bill in the Senate, so it passed unanimously. And it's been a long time coming. We've been working at this for 2 or 3 years now, and so here the bill is, and it sits on the governor's desk, and we are super excited and hoping that it will be signed.
Now, this is a bill that passed in 23 other states, and we just want to really talk about how important it is and break down what it means for families and medical professionals that are using this every single day. And you have your own personal experience. Share what you went through.
Yep. So my prenatal diagnosis, when I met with my OBGYN, I was prepared to be educated, to get research, information, resources, and really what I got was a lot of discriminatory information about individuals with Down syndrome. I learned about how the 2 infants that she delivered died early, how people with Down syndrome are aggressive during puberty, how they shouldn't be included in classrooms, on and on and on. So I left my doctor's appointment with my head just reeling, and the grief that I felt, sadly, was even worse. So I decided that I would do some research, and I came to discover this is a problem with women across our entire nation. Down syndrome is the most common of all conditions, so it's probably happening a lot more than we realize it. And so it's really crucial that people are receiving up-to-date, current information, because you can make choices at this point, and these choices are permanent. So we don't want to make choices based on fear or discrimination. So this piece of legislation would really sort of put some oversight on the process, and medical providers would have to provide up-to-date current information rather than just anecdotal stories or opinions.
Yeah, and talk me through what that information would be. Would they get like a list of things they need to know about, some links, some resources?
Yeah. So we created this bill so that it would be really easy for the governor to hand down to the agency handling the bill. So it could be information on the commissioner's website, it could be through an email, it doesn't necessarily have to be paper brochures, but really essentially it would be information from national and local organizations that specialize in Down syndrome, as well as doctors that specialize in Down syndrome, that can be provided to the patient during that time of post or prenatal diagnosis.
Yeah, what are some of the things that people might think about Down syndrome that might be some misconceptions?
Yeah.
What are some things that we can change here right now and tell people, hey, that's not true. This is exactly what goes on when a child has Down syndrome.
Yeah, so I think because Down syndrome is a very visible diagnosis, we can hear Down syndrome, we can see Down syndrome, so sometimes we have opinions about it, and these are sort of misguided and misbased. So this information will help caregivers and women really try to navigate a really stressful, hard time, and it will sort of answer those questions initially that come to mind.
Yeah, talk me through some of the beauty and some of the amazing things that you guys have seen through children who have Down syndrome and adults who have Down syndrome that you work with at GiGi's.
Yeah, so when I had my son, who I had a prenatal diagnosis for, as we discussed, I had him, and I realized that everything I learned from my OB was not true, and that he had a beautiful life, he had a beautiful way about him. I wanted to dedicate my life to working with this population, so that's when I started GiGi's Playhouse, and we provide free programs for individuals with Down syndrome. And I've surrounded myself in this population, and I have come to find that they're some of the most creative, socially advanced individuals that I've ever met. They have intellectual disabilities, and I think that that part is hard sometimes for the medical world or the educational world to get past, but really they're the most present, non-judgmental, refreshing people that I've ever been around, and I'm so blessed for these people to be my colleagues day in and day out.
All the time I've ever spent at GiGi's Playhouse has always been so much fun, so accepting and so loving. Emily Mondschein, Executive Director of GiGi's Playhouse, thank you so much for joining us here
Thank
tonight.
you.
Awesome.